Welcome to the Cosmic Inn. I'm your host, Rachel, and this episode is wild. I'm going to show you how you are the universe, interconnected to everything that exists or has the potential to exist. And hopefully that makes you feel so gosh darn powerful about your ability to make things happen that you go out there and experience big transformations, not only in your life, but also in your communities. First off, I want to thank our guest pass holders. Your support is what keeps this podcast going. I appreciate you so much. If you're not a guest pass holder and you want to support the show and get all the goodies, sign up at cosmicinn.ca. And you can connect with us on TikTok. I'm there almost every day sharing stuff about manifestation and mindset, answering questions. The Cosmic Inn is also on YouTube and Blue Sky. And for some reason, I'm still clinging to life on Instagram. And of course, you can visit the website at cosmicinn.ca. Just like you can connect with me and the Cosmic Inn online, we are connected to each other and the entire universe. So let's dive into that. You, me, and everything around you are made of the energy that sprung into existence billions of years ago in a dense, hot state. Within a tiny fraction of a second, that energy expanded and cooled to form the first quantum particles, including photons of light. Some of those quantum particles combined to create protons and neutrons, which became the first simple atoms of hydrogen and later helium. Over billions of years, the force of gravity pulled these atoms together into stars where immense pressure and temperatures fused them into heavier elements like carbon, oxygen, and iron, which are the building blocks of life as we know it. When the stars die, they explode as supernova, which scatters those elements across space. Those elements coalesce into new stars and new planets, including Earth. This process still happens today all over the universe. It's all those ancient atoms that make up the physical objects around us, including our bodies. All the water on Earth, the air we breathe, the food we eat, they may be water, air, and food today, but that's just a particular configuration of energy that's existed for billions of years and will continue for billions of years, cycling through the universe as energy shifts and changes forms. This is happening every moment, everywhere, including your own body. It's not just when you die and your body decomposes, you're part of this constantly moving energy, even right now as you listen to this podcast. You're expelling heat, water, and gases from your body. You're shedding skin and hair. Cells are dying and regenerating constantly inside you and being expelled as waste. You're absorbing resources from the environment, like digesting food and absorbing the nutrients and fuel into your body to repair systems and provide energy for your muscles and brain. Breathing air and taking the oxygen molecules for cellular functions. Even the sunlight on your skin is facilitating vitamin D production in your body. You don't exist independently from the environment around you. If you go into space, you need to bring what? Oxygen and food and water with you and a way to dispel waste. Otherwise, it builds up as toxins. So there's parts of your body you have to get rid of. It's easy to think about yourself as this contained unit, but you're physically linked to what's around you. You don't exist without constant external input and the ability to output waste back into the system. Your presence and actions influence and shape the objects around you too. Like you take up space that otherwise can't be occupied by something else. You change the air pressure in a room. You know, in sci-fi movies, when someone time travels and like disappears or appears, I like to see how the sound designers and director handle that because air molecules are displaced when that happens, which would probably make a funny little noise. Your body bends the fabric of space-time with your gravitational effect. It's small, but it's there. And you exert force around you, which degrades other objects, like walking around wears down floors and carpet and grass. You'll see that in high traffic areas like older transit stations with stone stairs that are worn down due to the millions of people that pass over them each week. Or sleeping makes a dent in your mattress over time. And this can be detrimental. Like an example of this is horses in Australia. There are no hard-hooved animals native to Australia. So when horses were introduced, it led to environmental damage because their hooves compacted and eroded the soil, which reduces water's ability to infiltrate into the ground, which increases runoff, which leads to further erosion and habitat degradation. So just existing impacts other things to varying degrees. And other things influence you. Anything can take you out. Okay, a volcano, a tsunami, microbes like bacteria infection or virus, a tree branch falling on your head. Not to be morbid, but force scatters your body or parts of your body back into the system. Chemical reactions as well. I'm going to get graphic for a sec. So if you're squeamish, just hit the skip button ahead a couple times. Like, give me like 30 seconds. You ready? Okay. If I die in a field and I'm just left there, vultures and other animals and insects would come by and use force to rip up the flesh. Smaller living things like fungus and bacteria would be doing similar with chemical secretions, like dissolving what they can and turning it into sustenance until I'm bone, right? At which point the sun's heat has caused a lot of water to evaporate, and eventually the force of rain and wind would wear down the bones to dust. By the force and energetic input of other things, my body degrades and returns to the system that sprung it forth. Moment to moment, you're in this dance of exchanging energy that's existed this entire time and will be reabsorbed back into the universe. So you're not separate and apart from the universe. You can't pluck you out of the universe and stand alone. You're part of this flow of energy, but it's not just you. Your body is an entire ecosystem. Trillions of different types of microbes live in and on your body, shaping your health in ways you don't even notice. Like gut bacteria helps break down food and extracts nutrients. The microbes on your skin regulate the oils and waste that seep from your pores by breaking them down, which influences how your skin feels and smells. They also help prevent infections. You're a walking symbiosis of human and microbial life. Your organs are made of specialized cells that function independently while working together as a system. Some, like the gut and heart, even have their own neurons and signaling networks like the brain. Many call the gut the second brain in the body, and most completely ignore the fact that the heart has its own brain. Instead of a strict hierarchy, your body operates more like an interconnected network where organs send chemical signals and requests, influencing each other and the brain in a dynamic conversation. You're a collection of things working together to function. Like an ecosystem is a living organism made of other living things like plants, insects, and mammals. The whole is only as good as the sum of its parts, which is true for your body as well. And because we're linked to external input like oxygen, water, and food to build and maintain our bodily vessel or ecosystem, it's not too much of a stretch to imagine our body in our ecosystem on the planet as not much different from a cell in the body, since a cell is also independent in its operation, but both the cell in your body and your body in the ecosystem are temporary formations of energy shifting through that system. Both rely on specific temperature, pressure, and moisture conditions in the immediate environment. Both contribute to sustaining and degrading the whole system, and both require input to sustain themselves, like oxygen and water. When we zoom in or out of the scale we look at, we can see our individual bodies are part of larger and smaller systems. Larger systems like the ecosystem and cosmos, and smaller systems like our organs and individual cells and microbiome. And there are many cultures currently and throughout history that recognize the interconnectedness of our individual bodies as an extension of the earth, both physically and spiritually. And you somehow develop conscious awareness of being in a body surrounded by other conscious beings and objects, which is weird because we don't know where consciousness comes from or what has it. Like, is it possible that people are walking around and talking and working jobs but not conscious? I'm sure you've met someone like that. Is a single cell conscious or a rock? Some people think the sun is alive because it consumes, grows, and reproduces. Is the sun conscious? It depends on your definition of consciousness, which I'm not going to get into on this episode because it's a whole other conversation. But let's assume you are conscious. Even still, as a conscious being, individuality might be an illusion, even though it's a persistent one. Because not only are you part of a larger system physically, your personality and beliefs are shaped by the people around you. Through experience and trial and error and example, especially in childhood, you pick up behaviors and beliefs that shape how you respond to people and situations. Your culture has a huge influence on what you believe and the meaning you attach to objects and other people's actions or words and world events. Social norms change over generations of society. In the future, humans might look back on things we do today as abhorrent and unthinkable. Things we think are totally normal, like farming cattle and burning fossil fuels and capitalism. It's hard to imagine frameworks without them because it's just so ingrained into normal modern life. You drive your car to a fancy steak restaurant to celebrate a birthday with a friend and pay with your credit card because you get travel points. Normal. Even though you know fossil fuels are bad for the environment, cows are curious little cuties that act like big dogs, and capitalism isn't the best way to manage resources. Imagine somebody in the future looking back and being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe people used to do that. But it's normal. Even your own reaction to that right now is an example of your ego, which is your sense of self. It's shaped by how you relate to others. It's a big driver in how you think and feel day to day. And whether you realize it or not, it's constantly being reinforced by the people around you. Even your DNA isn't yours. It's assigned to you. If you're from Toronto, you might be a Leafs fan, regardless of how they've not won a cup in 60 years. You've been defaulted into supporting the Leafs, not because you chose that team, but the culture around you shaped your support of the boys in blue, go Leafs go. Your entire life is co-created by all the people around you because of the impact your family, society, and governments have on your access to resources and freedom of self-expression and autonomy. So, how do we influence anything? Like, what's the point of even trying to make goals? It seems like energy is just flowing like karma and we're just along for the ride. And that might sound like it's sex, because if we're just a temporary blip in time made of recycled parts and we're heavily influenced and shaped by our surroundings, am I even me? Are my goals and dreams mine, or are they just a product of what I'm aware of and feel comfortable with? Unfortunately, there's no real answer to this. But here's how I think about it so I don't go insane. Okay. And this is a little side quest on this episode because I'm going to talk about consciousness for a sec. And I don't know if it really fits in the episode, but here it goes. Thoughts are like tuning into a radio station. And episode 8 is going to get into that more. But for now, just imagine thoughts aren't stored in your brain. The brain tunes into them like a radio. There's no music or talk shows or news traffic updates inside the radio. Those are coming from radio waves in the electromagnetic field around it. The radio equipment is wired in a way that can pick up the information from the waves and converts them into sound. It's tempting to think our thoughts are part of an inner world. Like I've got my body and my thoughts and my feelings and my beliefs on the inside, and everything else is outside. But what if what everyone calls the inner world is just the outer world, and you are the observer of the world, both the external stuff like the room you're in and the people around you, as well as the stuff we think of as inner, like our thoughts, memories, feelings, and opinions. Let's do an activity to visualize this. So grab a paper and a pen, or do this mentally with me. You can do it in your head. On your piece of paper, draw a dot. Pretend that's your conscious observation as a singular point in space-time where energy is swirling around you. You're the dot watching what's happening around you. Now draw a circle around that dot. This is your mind, where you have your thoughts, memories, and desires. Now draw a circle around the circle of the mind. That's your body with feelings and pleasure and pain and your organs and cells and microbiome all doing their thing. Now draw another bigger circle around that. That is the environment and the people around you. Or we can make that a series of circles. Like maybe there's a circle for your immediate surroundings and family, another one that represents your community or city, a bigger one to represent the ecosystem you're in. It doesn't really matter. The dot can see everything around it and pay attention to any area in the other circles. And you can see how everything is surrounding the dot in layers, including the mind and body. And that's an analogy for what I was talking about earlier, how we're like a collection of organs and microbes, which is part of a larger ecosystem, which is part of the larger planet, etc., like nesting dolls. Open it up and you can keep finding other parts that make up the whole until you get down to that final doll, which is the dot. Now, I said at the beginning of this activity that you're the dot. And if you look at that on your paper, it's a small thing surrounded by bigger things, like it's been swallowed up by the things around it. But I kind of lied. You're not the dot. You're the paper. The dot is just your peephole into observing yourself. Instead of thinking of yourself as a small point stuck and observing bigger layers around you, starting with your mind and extending out to your body and out to the environment and reality, think of yourself as the canvas where all of that happens. The dot is like tuning in to experience a small slice of yourself as an expression of the universe. Instead of attaching to all that's swirling around you, including your thoughts and opinions, the things you own, your job, your status, whatever, think of it like an experience that's available to you via your attention. Much like the analogy of your mind tuning into your thoughts like a radio station, you can extend that further into reality since you construct reality based on your perception and assumptions. It's like tuning into a particular frequency from all the options available in the field. It's the difference between someone who complains about everything and someone who always sees the bright side of any situation. Both may be having the same experience, but one chooses to navigate through the options with displeasure and judgment, while the other enjoys the ride and sees the good. If you're not happy with a situation in your life, you can change your attention or the dial you're tuned into, because where attention goes, energy flows to shape a new experience. Thinking of yourself as the fabric where the experience happens rather than the experience hopefully makes you feel empowered in the sense that you can shape and change what's happening on the fabric. Because the fabric can be, do, and have many things, and what's happening on it at the moment is temporary and flexible. That doesn't mean change is easy or instantaneous, although it can be sometimes, but change is happening all the time anyway, so why not shape it towards what you really want? And I wish I could get into all the nuances and philosophies and facts that back that up, but it's a short podcast. So, and the other thing is no one really knows, right? That's just a collection of information and, going back to this idea that we're just conglomerations of everything that we know and have experienced based on what's around us in the environment. This is still it's kind of mind-blowing to think about. But I've got one more point to share with you on how we're all connected, which also backs up this idea about being the fabric and selecting where you're giving attention. And that is, we're connected to all things in the quantum field. I touched on the quantum field in the previous episode and promised to get a little more into it. According to quantum field theory, which is a widely accepted theory, the universe is filled with invisible energy that extends throughout all of 3D space. Even in what seems like empty space, these energy layers are there, stretching across the universe from edge to edge. Quantum particles, which make up you and me and everything around us, are excitations in their respective quantum fields. So photons, like the light you see with your eyes, would be part of the electromagnetic field. Electrons, which are another type of quantum particle, have their own field. But photons and electrons interact, so their fields are interlinked as well, which is why you'll often hear the fields referred to collectively as just the field. The particles and fields interact to create the physical universe as we know it. We don't fully know how it does that, but it's something science is actively researching and learning about. If quantum field theory is right, it means all matter and energy in the universe are interconnected through these fields. So if we're standing in a room together, there looks like nothing between us, but we are connected in the field as excitations of the quantum field. And better yet, we don't need to be standing in the room together. This is true even now, regardless of where we're at individually. It may be that your collection of matter in the field creates disturbances that extend through the field, like as an illustration, but not an exact interpretation. You can look up a video of this. It's for the visual, but some frogs make a rapid vibrating sound called a trill. If it's sitting in a still, shallow pool of water, you can see how the sound waves ripple across the surface when its body vibrates from trilling. I think if you YouTube frogs singing in water, you'll get it. But quantum fields might be influenced by energy and interactions in the same way. And this is speculative, but there may be things we pick up about that connection which we don't perceive directly with our senses. But here's why I like this and what makes me really happy when I have a goal or a desire that kind of seems out there and maybe impossible. You are connected to the things you desire because you're both an extension of the same thing, recycled and shifting energy in this interconnected field. But that's for things that already exist right now, like maybe a particular vehicle you want to own or a certain amount of money you want to have in your bank account. That's out there right now, right? You're energetically connected to that through the field. What about things that don't exist yet? Like maybe a business you want to create or a product or a piece of art. The field has infinite potential because all possible combinations of quantum particles and energy transformation exists as probabilities. So if something can exist, it exists in the field as a potential state. What does that mean? Because that seemed like a bunch of words. It means that if something is physically possible, it exists in the quantum field as a potential. It just hasn't necessarily become reality yet. I talked about this in the last episode. In quantum physics, particles don't have fixed properties until they interact with something. Instead, they exist as possibilities, like options waiting to be selected. The quantum field holds all these possibilities at once, kind of like a playlist on shuffle. Every song is there, but you don't know which one will play until you hit next. So in a way, everything that can happen is already encoded in the field, just waiting for the right conditions to bring it into reality. Knowing that energy is constantly shifting and changing forms, the future, which is not predetermined, has a vast range of possibilities inside each moment of now. And it has the potential to be more than we can accurately predict due to the limitations of our perception, which I talked about in the last episode. But let me give you an analogy. If I have a bag of apples, I can do so many things with that. Like I can bake a pie. And Carl Sagan, a famous astrophysicist, said, if you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe. And I just thought that was too appropriate a quote not to put in this. Because the pie is just a temporary configuration of energy in the universe at that time, with the energy from the dawn of time. Anyway, okay, that was a side note. But I have a bag of apples. I can bake a pie. I can make applesauce. I slice them and roast chicken breast on top because it keeps the chicken juicy and it makes a nice side dish. I can put the apples in a bucket of water and play bobbing for apples. I can peel them and dry them out to make doll heads, which we did as kids in school. I can slice them to eat. I can be a toddler and take like 2 bites out of it and then leave it under the couch. I can do all kinds of things. The potential is there and all possibilities for my bag of apples exists, even the ones I don't know about. Like I didn't mention apple cider or apple vinegar. Even if I was unaware of those options, the potential is still in the apples. I bring forth the options into reality by using energy around me and the potential of the apples to create something new. Like if I bake a pie, I need heat, which uses energy and other ingredients that will cause a chemical reaction to change the molecular structure of the apple into the texture and taste of pie filling. Like the bag of apples, you can think of the field in this moment now as being in a particular configuration of energy that holds potential combinations of new configurations. Your actions and intentions, as well as your assumptions for what the present situation can become, influences how that potential unfolds into reality. It's helpful to know what you want is possible and you shape the future from the present. But that also might seem overwhelming if you assume that you need to have some kind of vast knowledge about all the potential and all the energy and momentum needs to come directly from you and your efforts, and it doesn't. I'm going to get more into that in later episodes so you can see how this really works in manifesting and goal getting and how it's not just all on your shoulders. But I hope you see that you are the universe experiencing itself as an excitation of the field in a temporary configuration of constantly transforming energy, interconnected to and irremovable from all things that exist or have the potential to exist. You're not separate and apart from the abundance available. It's all just an extension of you. I have a visualization you can do to connect with this idea. It's on the website at cosmicin.ca or YouTube. It guides you through imagining yourself connected in the field and mentally drawing forth what you want to create or experience from the field. as if you're molding an extension of yourself to shift into a new configuration in your reality. I find it empowering. I always feel good afterwards, and it works. So go check it out. As soon as I said it works, I immediately thought 60% of the time, it works every time. Anyways, go check it out on YouTube or cosmicin.ca. Knowing that you are the universe, that you're interconnected with all things, that the current moment is full of possibilities, that you create your reality and shape the future is awesome. And the more you reflect on what that means to you, hopefully it opens up a lot of confidence in how you approach your dreams and goals as powerful beings. In the next episode, it's going to not just be me on the show. I'll have guests on to chat with and clarify some manifestation myths and misconceptions. We'll cover a range of myths, so have a listen if you're confused about manifestation or have heard things about manifesting and you're like, what the heck? We're going to clear some stuff up. I hope you enjoyed your stay at the Inn today. Don't forget to follow and share this episode with the rest of the universe who hasn't already tuned in. See you next time on The Cosmic Inn.